The moment still lives in my chest like a held breath, sharp and unforgettable, the kind that divides your life into before and after. 1 second I was just an employee hurrying back from lunch, thinking about overdue bills and a prayer I hadn't finished that morning, and the next second the air itself seemed to freeze. A gust of wind raced through the narrow alley beside the office building, papers flew, a door slammed, and something deeply human and fragile happened in the open, where it was never meant to be seen. I remember my heart pounding louder than the traffic, my eyes instinctively lowering, and the heavy realization that a single reaction could change everything for both of us. Before we go any further, if stories about kindness, second chances, and quiet integrity mean something to you, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep stories like this alive, and sometimes a simple click can ripple farther than we ever expect. My name is Daniel Walker, and at that time I was just another face in a mid-sized accounting firm in Ohio, the kind of place where fluorescent lights hum softly and dreams learn to whisper instead of shout. I was 32, recently divorced, and living in a small apartment that still smelled like fresh paint because I couldn't afford furniture beyond the basics. My faith was there, but tired, like a candle that had burned through too many long nights of worry. I worked hard, kept my head down, and believed that doing the right thing quietly was its own form of prayer. My boss, Rebecca Collins, was known throughout the office as composed and unshakable. She wore authority like a tailored jacket, neat and confident, never wrinkled. People admired her, some feared her, and a few resented her success. She had worked her way up in a world that rarely forgave mistakes, especially from women, and she carried that weight every day without complaint. To me, she was simply the person who signed my paychecks and occasionally nodded in approval when my work was solid. That afternoon, as the wind tore through the side passage between buildings, something went wrong in a very human way. It was awkward, accidental, and painfully vulnerable. I saw enough to understand what had happened, and enough to know it was not something meant for anyone else's eyes. Time slowed, and in that space I felt a strange test unfolding, not of rules or policies, but of character. I looked away immediately. Not because I was afraid, but because it felt right, like an instinct older than fear. I remember thinking of my mother, who raised me on quiet lessons rather than loud speeches, who taught me that dignity was something you protect in others even when no one is watching. I also thought of God, not in a dramatic way, but like a gentle reminder resting on my shoulder. Rebecca's face had gone pale, her composure cracked for a fraction of a second. In that brief moment, she was not my boss, not a powerful executive, but a human being caught off guard by the randomness of the world. The silence between us was heavy, filled with unspoken consequences. I gave her nothing but space and respect, as if nothing unusual had occurred, as if the wind had simply passed through and moved on. Life did not immediately reward that moment. In fact, for weeks afterward, nothing seemed to change at all. I went back to my desk, back to spreadsheets and deadlines, back to evenings where I ate alone and wondered if I was moving forward or just standing still. Part of me questioned whether doing the right thing even mattered in a world that seemed to favor louder, sharper choices. I never mentioned the incident to anyone, not even my closest friend from church, because some things lose their goodness the moment they are spoken aloud. The firm went through a rough quarter soon after. Clients left, budgets tightened, and rumors of layoffs crept through the office like a cold draft. Every email notification made my stomach knot. I prayed more during those weeks, sometimes with words, sometimes just with a tired hope that refused to die. I watched coworkers polish resumes and whisper anxiously near the coffee machine. I prepared myself for the possibility that integrity might cost me more than I could afford. Then one evening, long after most of the office had emptied, I found myself still working under the harsh glow of my monitor. The city outside was dark, rain streaking the windows like quiet tears. I felt small, replaceable, and worn thin. It was in that moment that I realized how easy it would be to grow bitter, to believe that goodness was naive and faith was a luxury. But something inside me resisted that thought, like a root refusing to let go of the soil. Over the following months, subtle shifts began to happen. I was given more responsibility, then trusted with a complex account no one else wanted to touch. I worked late, not to impress, but because I cared. Slowly, my efforts were noticed. Rebecca remained professional and distant, but there was a new softness in her eyes when she passed my desk, a quiet respect that didn't ask for acknowledgement. One afternoon, I learned through office chatter that Rebecca had once lost a promising job early in her career due to a moment taken out of context and blown into scandal. It had taken her years to rebuild her reputation. Hearing that, I understood something deeper about that windy afternoon. I realized that what I had protected wasn't just her dignity in that moment, but a lifetime of effort, sacrifice, and resilience. My own life began to change in ways I didn't expect. I was promoted, not dramatically, but steadily. My financial worries eased enough for me to breathe again. I joined a small volunteer group through my church, helping people who were rebuilding after loss, and I found healing there too. The more I gave quietly, the fuller my life felt. It was as if choosing kindness had opened a door I didn't even know was there. Years passed, and the memory of that day faded into something softer, less sharp, but still meaningful. Then, during a company-wide meeting where achievements were recognized, Rebecca spoke about integrity without naming names. She talked about moments when no one is watching, about choices that define who we are more than any title ever could. Her eyes briefly found mine in the room, and in that glance was gratitude, humility, and something like shared understanding. No words were needed. I left that job eventually, moving on to a position that aligned more closely with my values. On my last day, I walked past the same narrow alley where the wind had once changed everything. The air was calm. Sunlight spilled between the buildings, warm and gentle. I stood there for a moment, reflecting on how small moments can carry the weight of entire lives. What stayed with me most was not the promotion or the stability, but the quiet knowledge that kindness matters, even when it feels invisible. Especially then. I learned that protecting someone's dignity can heal parts of ourselves we didn't even know were broken. I learned that faith doesn't always roar, sometimes it simply looks away and trusts that goodness is enough. If this story is touching something inside you right now, if it reminds you of a moment when you chose kindness or wished you had, please take a second to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps these stories reach hearts that need them, and it truly means more than you know. Before the ending, I have one special request for you. Please comment below with a single word or short sentence about what kindness means to you, or a moment when you chose compassion over convenience. Today, when I think back on that moment, I no longer feel the tension or fear. I feel gratitude. Gratitude for a mother who taught me well, for a faith that held steady when tested, and for a simple choice that rippled outward in ways I could never have planned. Life will always throw unexpected gusts our way, moments that test who we really are. When they come, I hope we remember that sometimes the most powerful thing we can say is nothing at all, and the most meaningful thing we can do is protect the humanity in each other.